here tonight. Thank you for being here. We'll start the meeting in just a moment, but before we do, I'd invite you to stand and join me in the pledge, and then Brian Powell will bring the invocation.
Let's pray. Father God, we love you and we thank you so much for your mercies and your goodness. What a beautiful day you've given us. We just ask that you just be with us as we go through these matters. Give us wisdom. Help us be the best stewards we can for this wonderful city. And we thank you for all the blessings you've given us. In Jesus' name, amen.
And thank you, Brian. All right. Take an opportunity to welcome everyone to tonight's regular meeting of the Springdale City Council. This is Tuesday, March 11th, 2025. And we'll kick things off by I'll ask Anna McKinney to call the roll.
Mayor Sprouse.
Here.
Brian Powell.
Here.
Amelia Taldo. Here.
Oh,
There she is. Jeff Watson. Mike Overton.
Here.
Mike Lawson.
Here.
Aaron Huntley.
Here.
Randall Harriman.
Here.
Mark Fujrus.
Here.
And Ernest Kate.
Here. All right, thank you. And now we'll move on to comments from our citizens. If we have residents that would like to address the council tonight concerning an item that is not already on tonight's agenda, we would invite you to come to the podium. Please clearly state your name and address. Keep your comments brief and understand that the council won't be taking action tonight on whatever you bring forward. Is there anyone that would like to address the council concerning an item that is not on tonight's agenda? All right, seeing none, we'll move on then. And I'm going to, let's approve minutes. Is that all right? We got another thing Ernest needs to address with you here in just a minute. But council, you've had an opportunity to look at the minutes. If there are no changes or additions, I'd entertain a motion to approve them as presented.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. All right, thank you. Now I'm going to turn it over to Ernest. We need to ask you all to add a couple of items to the agenda.
That's correct. We have two items that we'd like to add to the agenda. The first one is a public hearing on the item number 12, an ordinance authorizing the issuance and sale of water and sewer revenue bonds. The notice of the public hearing was published in the newspaper as required by the statute. The public hearing was just inadvertently left off the agenda, so we'd like to add that on there as it was published. We also have a resolution, and that would be item 6B. We also have a resolution we would like to add as item number 8B, which is a resolution making an appointment to fill a vacancy in the Springdale Water and Sewer Commission. And so I would entertain a motion to add those two items, and I believe IT has a voting slide ready for that motion.
So moved.
Second.
Okay? Any other questions before I call for the vote? All right, call for the vote on that.
Carries 8-0.
All right, thank you, council. We appreciate that. And sorry we had to spring that on you tonight. We left a couple things off. All right, item 6, I'm going to turn over to the city attorney.
Thank you. Item number 13 on the agenda is an ordinance vacating and abandoning a portion of utility easement on property in the city of Springdale. The statute requires before the council can take up this ordinance that a public hearing be held. Notice of the public hearing was published as required by state statute. So is there anyone here that wishes to comment on that particular item? If not, we'll close the public hearing and we'll take that up as item number 13 on the agenda. And then the next public hearing is one you just added, which is a public hearing on the hearing on bonds, water and sewer revenue bonds, which is item number 12 on the agenda. Similarly, the statute requires that a public hearing be held before the ordinance is acted upon. And notice of the public hearing was published as required by the statute. So is there anyone here that wishes to be heard on this particular item? Okay, we'll close the public hearing. We'll take that up as item number 12 on the agenda.
Okay, thank you, Ernest. Let's move on now to item 7, procedural motions. What's your pleasure, council?
I'll move for both A and B. Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for both A and B. Call for the vote.
Carries 8-0.
All right, thank you. We're at item 8, appointments and reappointments. The first one I'll read, it's a resolution making an appointment to the Springdale Library Board. And you have, well, y'all come on up. Y'all come on up. You've got the background information there in your packet.
And I'm here with Dr. Mara Whiteside, who is our recommended candidate for a vacancy on our board.
Move resolution pass.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve. Any other questions or comments? All right. Call for the vote.
Carries 8-0.
Great. Thank you for your willingness to serve. We appreciate that. Thank you very much. All right, and now we're at 8B, which is a resolution making an appointment to fill a vacancy on the Springdale Water and Sewer Commission. Heath, yeah, I know Eddie couldn't be here tonight. I've met with Eddie, was privileged to have lunch with him and Heath and Chris Weiser, and I think he'll make a great addition to the commission. You want to give a little of his background?
Yeah, so Mr. Chancellor is a native of Mississippi. However, he's lived in Springdale for over 20 years. He was a senior vice president with Tyson Foods for many years before he retired a few years ago. He has a lot of experience in operations and wastewater. And right now, he does some part-time consulting on the side regarding industrial plants and wastewater. I think he would be an excellent addition to the commission. Unfortunately, Dr. Al Hamby, after 28 years, resigned from the commission for personal reasons, and he's moving on to other things. And we think Mr. Chancellor, with his background in the poultry business, which represents roughly, now probably roughly 17% of our volume, that they would be well represented on the commission.
All right. Thanks, Heath.
I'll make a motion that the resolution pass.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the resolution. Other questions or comments? Anyone in the room? All right, we'll call for the vote.
Carries 8-0.
All right, and that takes us to item 9, Planning Commission report and recommendations. Sharon Tromberg is here to bring these recommendations. So Sharon, it's all yours.
Thank you, Council. So our first item is a rezoning that was tabled at the February 25th meeting. And this is a rezoning for a tract of 3.66 acres at the northeast corner of Wagon Wheel and Robbins Road. And then also, I think the applicant and representative are here just in case there are further questions that they can answer. But the title reads, an ordinance amending ordinance number 3307, the same being the zoning ordinance of the city of Springdale, Arkansas, and the plat pertaining thereto by rezoning R2509, certain lands located at the northeast corner of Wagon Wheel Road and Robbins Road from general commercial district to thoroughfare commercial district within Springdale, Arkansas, and declaring an emergency.
Is it that entire tract that's highlighted in this picture?
Correct. Everything that's outlined in the black.
Were the adjacent property owners, did they come to the meeting and talk about it?
We did. We had some property owners from the area come and speak out. But the adjacent property owner here is going to be the fire station.
No, on the north.
We did. We had at least a couple residents come out.
Planning Commission vote, it looks like was 7-2.
It was 7-2, correct.
I'll make a motion that the ordinance pass.
Second. We have a motion and a second to approve the ordinance. Any questions or comments? These gentlemen are here to answer any questions you might have before we vote.
Are there exits off of, or entrances off of Robbins and Wagon Wheel?
Of course, I assume there will be. Of course, those are the kinds of things that would be addressed at large-scale development phase. But I would assume that whatever entrances and exits are required by city code be complied with, as well as screening and anything else a large-scale ordinance requires.
We've probably got at least one person in the audience that would like to speak to this as well. And then we'll give you all an opportunity to answer anything that might come up, okay?
Let me, before I take a
Yeah,
seat,
go ahead.
Yeah, let me just say that I know y'all have addressed the other side of the road with the C5 request before. I don't think that sets any kind of a precedent. These are apples and oranges. That property started out as 16 acres, and it was reduced to 8, then it was reduced to 5. This is a smaller piece of property. It's focused entirely on the corner, right on an arterial. I think the planning staff's report addresses it well. This is a good location for this kind of a use. Do you have any questions for me at all before I have a seat?
So, thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
All right, before we vote, I'll open it up to any comments from others in the room.
These are, didn't get them all. This is the warehouse that's going in on Chief Truman Brewer. And this is an example of what we're trying to avoid having in our neighborhood. I know I've been told. Oh, I'm sorry. I'll
Yeah.
speak now.
Okay.
So these are the photographs of the warehouse that's going in on Chief Truman Brewer. My name's Ron Minot. I live on Graham Road. So that's just to give you an idea of what we're trying to avoid. This is, let me get to my notes because that way I'll be more, okay.
Can you state your exact address, please?
It's 4900 North Graham Road. My concern about this rezoning is that, as you can see from the ICM locations, I think you all, hopefully you still remember those photographs that we had last week back in February. I went to their locations around the Mid-South, and all their locations seem to be in industrial locations. This area is not industrial. It is a residential area. I know you don't rezone for particular companies, but since Horse Barn, LLC, and ICM are represented by the same person, it is known that ICM is planning to build there if you rezone to C5. We can expect to have a company that stores large trenching equipment, trailers, steel barrels, and other industrial equipment there. The pictures that I just passed out is what is being built on Chief Truman Brewer, and it is a C5. So that's what gives us a concern in that area. This is what we are trying to prevent in our residential area. I know that a warehouse is not one of the permitted uses for C5, but to me, the location on Chief Truman Brewer looks like a warehouse. There are other industrial parks in Springdale that could accommodate this business and not impact our residential area. 265 and 264 has an industrial area that this could fit in and not impact anyone. I would think that if you consider what the city says in the city's commercial design standards, it is the general purpose and intent of these design standards to foster and the use and development of land in an orderly manner by both private and public interest of the city of Springdale, with special consideration given to the appearance of the community as a result of such development. It is recognized that the appearance of the property has a direct bearing on the economic value of such property and adjacent and surrounding properties. The appearance of a single property affects not only the surrounding property, but the cumulative effect is to enhance or diminish the aesthetics of this entire city, and consequently the values of property within the city. The residents, all the POAs that I have talked to, Windsor, Thornberry, Stonecrest, Lexington Court, the residents live in this area feel that ICM development does not fit into our area. This location is almost completely surrounded by homes. Large trucks are the only way that these structures are moved. As you can see from the pictures of the ICM locations, they are more of an industrial site. The storage of these large steel trenching frames do not fit into a residential area. If this property is kept as a C2, hopefully a developer will be able to put a business in that could benefit the neighborhood. And so I will stop it at that, but I'm just hoping that being a residential neighborhood will have an impact on your all's decisions, because having a commercial warehouse building like that with large trenching things stored outside will not be a positive thing for the neighborhood. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ron. Certainly. We've got another one back there too, that you're welcome to come up and speak when these gentlemen are finished.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to respond a little bit. This property is going to be screened. I don't have the benefit of the picture. I don't know what you've seen, but this property is going to be properly screened.
It's actually a warehouse under construction, so I don't know that it
Okay.
relates.
Well, thank you for
But
it.
to me, anyway, it might to the council, but it didn't to me.
But as I said earlier, this property is going to be properly screened. It's going to comply with all of the large-scale regulations. The only outside storage is going to be the trenching boxes and the steel plates that are used for the streets. The truck traffic, my client has done a study of his properties in various locations, and it averages less than one truck a day, and the truck is typically a one-ton pickup truck with a gooseneck trailer. So there's not going to be a lot of truck traffic. That shouldn't be a concern. I would note that this gentleman, while he's articulate and did a nice job of presenting his case, he lives a long ways away. He lives clear up on Graham Road, take a left and down by the curve. The people who are immediately next to this property, I don't believe are here tonight. So with that, I would answer any questions you may have. My client's also here to answer any questions that this has caused you to have.
Okay. Any questions? Go ahead.
Okay, so you mentioned screening that would be put up, and I know that planning would be a big part of that. The trench boxes that you're talking about, tell me how they'll be stored. Will they be completely behind any kind of screening? Are they broken down? They left in full shape? Explain that to me.
All right, so my name is Russell Ball, B-A-U-G-H. I'm the CFO for Improved Construction Methods, or ICM of America. And generally, the trench boxes are stored flat, one on top of the other. They're not stood up. They generally range between 4 to 8 feet is the normal height if they were stood up. And we're here to comply with whatever requirements the city needs for screening. Our goal is to be a good neighbor to these folks. The rental that we have is less than 25% of our business, and the trench box or the trench safety piece of it is less than that. So like I said, when I looked at the traffic that we have, it averages less than one truck a day. So it's not going to be a huge amount of traffic up and back through there. Primarily, we're going to have a metal building. Most of our supplies and stuff are inside of there, like a showroom. So we're willing to work with the city to do whatever we possibly can to be a good neighbor. We currently have a location around the corner at Athens Road that's in a steel building. We don't have our trenching stuff there. We have it stored off-site somewhere.
Be sure you stay in the mic there.
Sorry.
Okay.
We have it stored off-site somewhere. And for us, we've grown tremendously in the last 3 or 4 years. We really need to get everything put back together so that we can be a service to the contractors here.
And the other question I had was hours of operation and noise because of the house is right directly north of you. What would that be?
We try to stay between 7 o'clock and 5 o'clock, 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. That's not to say that if a contractor needs something that we won't come and get them a plug or something like a pipe laser on a Saturday or whatever, but we normally work Monday through Friday, 7 to 5.
And I think to be clearly responsive to your first question, whatever they have will be stored within the screening. The perimeter of the property will be screened as required by large-scale development code, and whatever they have would be screened from outside the property.
Okay. Ron, let's hear from, I think you've got maybe some neighbors that wanted to speak.
Push the red button. Actually, could I ask a question of Sharon real quick before anybody else? I'm sorry, sir, if I could jump in front of you. Sharon, I had 2 questions. This picture that Ron handed to us a while ago, can you build warehouses on C5?
You cannot build dedicated warehousing. It's a conditional use in a C5. So dedicated warehousing would be you don't have any customer or public facings, there's no retail place, there's nowhere for customers come. It's strictly warehouse and distribution for trucks. So no, it's not permitted by right in a C5.
And we have land use plan for this area, correct?
We do.
Do you know what it is?
We have identified commercial for wagon wheel.
When you identify commercial for wagon wheel, does it break it down in any way?
I don't have the proposed one right here in front of me, but
Or how about the one that's in existence?
it does not have this area since it was in former Bethel Heights, so it kind of has that area carved out, so it's not reflected on the
This
current
portion
one.
of the street was formerly in Bethel Heights? This portion of Wagon Wheel was formerly in Bethel Heights?
Yes.
Yeah, yes, sir.
The home directly to the north, is that a SF?
It's an
One.
SF1.
Historically, do we put C5 right next to SF1?
No, and the SF1, that's actually a subdivision that's getting ready to be finalized. No, and ideally, we would have liked, there probably should have been a better buffer between heavy commercial, C5, and residential. But that subdivision was approved, that zoning was approved.
Yeah, if.
By
if
us or by
If
Bethel
anything's out of
Heights?
place, it's that subdivision. We've got a concrete truck route thoroughfare there that, I don't know where else you put C5 if you don't put it on that one.
And it's my understanding, again, the reason that they're looking for a C5 is because of the outside storage. Is that correct?
Correct, correct. And the screening requirements that we would be looking for from a C5 development plan that went in would be more for incompatible uses, for screening protection for the residential property that's just to the north. Since they were there first and a commercial business would be coming in, we would require a minimum of an 8-foot totally opaque fence. So the C5 would allow them to have some outdoor storage that was not totally screened from the public right-of-way. But if they're willing, we're always going to encourage more screening.
Can you remind us of some of the things that could be placed in C5?
There is, and I think I passed out a small handout that has a little kind of commercial cheat sheet of it. So for the C5, some of the ones that stick out other than like a hotel, motel, certain entertainment stuff is loud businesses. So drive-throughs are the number one thing that sticks out. I mean, you can't have a drive-through coffee or fast food restaurant unless it's in a C5 zoning. Because we're looking for areas along arterials or loud, busy roads where these type of commercial businesses are more appropriate.
Jeff, you have any other questions for Sharon? Anybody? She'll be handy. Come on up, sir, if you'd like to talk.
My name is Steve Monaco, and my wife Julie is with me tonight. And we live in the Lexington Circle neighborhood, which is just to the south of the proposed property there. And we've been there for about 9.5 years. We love it, wonderful neighborhood, and we've really enjoyed being there, even though we know that the city is growing and that businesses need to come in, and we appreciate that. We're not opposed to that. The concern that I have, and I think that some of the people I've talked to, I just found out about it yesterday. I didn't even really know that it was going that direction. And I was able to see some pictures of some properties that are, I think, owned by the same company in different areas in Arkansas and Oklahoma and I think Tennessee as well. And the pictures that I saw, I don't know if they're exactly what's going to be going on there, but it gave me concern to look at those. They looked more industrial than I would imagine a place like that right across from our neighborhood and adjacent to the properties just north of there, all the new development of houses there, and there's some houses fairly close there. That gave me concern, and just concern about how that would impact our neighborhood. We have a lot of trucks going by as it is from the quarry, and of course, all the rest of the growth that's going on in the city. So I think that's the main concern that we have, is that with it being zoned for C2, and then, has it already been zone 5? That's what you're, okay. So that was my concern, is that if it's going to go from a C2 to a C5, and that it might have an adverse impact on our neighborhood there. And so just wanted to encourage all of you, as you consider voting on this, to maybe ask yourself this question is, would you like this kind of property directly across from your house? And we're right across the street from there. We're not up on the hill or any place else. We're right there. So just ask you to consider that as you go through it. And I know you have a lot more things to consider than I do, but I appreciate you and appreciate the time this evening. And thank you very much.
Thank you. I think it's safe to say that I know I do, and I think everybody up here always asks ourselves that question with any rezoning.
Yeah.
But we don't always come up with the same answer either.
Sure. No, I know that. Yeah, I understand. Thank you.
Ron, what else you got? We need to move this along. And there may be others that want to speak. And I think when we, just to kind of address what you said, I think we need to be careful when we're comparing, though, with other properties, because we don't know what their requirements are in another city, another location. We don't know what zoning classification it has. All cities handle these different, and just like we have the screening requirements, now all cities may not have that. So just something to keep in mind.
And this is, going to that point of what he said, this is their Tulsa location. There are barrels, there are trailers that are stored on the property. Now, you know, the city may require them not to allow them to do that, but I see that in all their other locations. What makes me think they're not going to, in a year or 2 years from now, go, oh, we've got these 50 barrels that need to be stored, and they're stored there. So that's my comment on that.
Right.
Sharon, what happens if somebody does something that's outside of the scope of what you guys are allowing? Say in C5, they're not allowed, according to Springdale, to have barrels out, but they have barrels out. What next?
It becomes a neighborhood services issue, rather than zoning. If they've already had approved development plan and a business license and they're in good standing, it's not a planning issue.
I think if you look at the picture that Ron just passed out, that's all screened. You see a lot from a Google Earth picture.
Yeah.
Absolutely, but I just wanted for the public to understand, like, if there is an issue, then the homeowners, the residents are free to contact
Absolutely, encouraged to.
code enforcement.
That's good.
And we don't have, just to know, we don't have a development plan that's been submitted. So we don't have any plans, anything actually to look at, to consider for this property. But we do have commercial design standards, so landscaping, lighting, architectural requirements. We have a long list of things that we will require for any development that goes into this spot.
Do we have anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. My name is Julie Monaco. I'm Steve's wife. We're at 1202 Lexington Circle. Public speaking is not my forte, and I'm shaking like a leaf. But I'll try to explain from a woman's point of view what I experienced when I saw those pictures. And first of all, we just heard about this last night. And I felt, why did nobody in the neighborhood know about this zoning change? We were not notified. No one was notified. So I kind of feel like it was.
Can I give you a little commercial? I'd love to do a little commercial right here, real quick.
Okay.
Springdale offers something that I don't know of any other city that does, or at least we were the first to do it. If you will go to our website and sign up for, on the Springdale Alert, you can check when you want to be notified of any rezonings anywhere in the city, or you can just pick the ones around you, and you'll get alerted to that, and it's free. And we try and there's also storm warnings, all those things from our website. Now, I don't know of anybody else that does that from a planning perspective, or at least unless they've started recently. So we have a tool there that people can use. Now, didn't help you this time, but I think it's important when I have an opportunity to remind people that that's free and available to them.
Thank you for sharing that. When I saw a picture, my husband brought that picture home last night, and I have macular degeneration, so I don't see things as clearly as you do. But when I looked at that picture, I'm like, what is that? And I know it's an aerial view. I know you said there's screening around or whatever, but to me, that looked like a junkyard. Now, from a woman's perspective, everything has a place and everything belongs in its place and everything's in order. There was nothing in order in those views, in the pictures that we saw. And right behind there, to the north of there, and I know you said there's like 8-foot screening, would you like to have $1 million property and look out your window and have an 8-foot screening when you used to have a view? Those are $1 million properties back behind there. Now, ours across the street is not $1 million properties, not even $500,000, but in the 400,000s. And currently, there are 2 homes that back up to Wagon Wheel that are up for sale. And I'm thinking, if this goes through, those sales are jeopardized and our property values could go down because of that. I'm not saying it will, I'm just saying it could. Trying to be proactive and try to, save our values of our homes. Also, that intersection at Wagon Wheel and Robbins, it's not a straight four-way. You have to kind of do a jog. It's very difficult to cross there if you're coming off of Robbins, trying to jog on Wagon Wheel and get onto the other side of Robbins. There have been multiple accidents, motor vehicle accidents right there at that intersection. There's just a stop sign on Robbins. There's not a four-way stop, but stop signs on Robbins. There's no light. There's a lot of traffic. The noise level on Wagon Wheel is already optimal with all of the trucks, and the traffic through there is already pretty noisy. It has affected the dogs that are in the homes, their backyards are right there on Wagon Wheel. Also, we can look at our front window, and we used to be able to see the deer, and I think we've heard coyotes. We have owls in the area. We love seeing the wildlife right here in the city. I really want to say that I'm opposed to this coming there. And if this was the only place, the only land available, I can see where you might have to do that, but there's multiple other large areas in large pieces of property in industrial areas where this could be placed, and I'm asking you to please consider that. Thank you.
Thank you. Come on up.
And I don't want to engage in a continuous debate, but I want to make sure some things are straight. First off, those folks that live to the south, they're buffered by a 5-lane arterial. And I think there may even be a wall there. I'm not sure. Don't hold me to that. But there's all kinds of speculation here about what this piece of property is going to look like based on pictures from other jurisdictions where we don't even know what the rules are. In this location, what's going to be facing Wagon Wheel is just going to be the showroom and the parking area for the showroom. The screening or the fence is going to be in the back, and that back part of the property will be surrounded, and that's where the materials will be stored. But Wagon Wheel's a busy road. The contribution of traffic that this particular business would make to this location is minuscule compared to the existing traffic flow on there. There are a lot of things in a C2 zone that could go in there and create a lot more traffic than this piece of property would. So please keep those things in mind also as you're considering this matter. Is there something you want to add?
It is, please. May I show you guys a picture as well? I'm not for sure what they have, but the stuff beside us is not ours. All the barrels and stuff are on the property beside us. We don't have it. What our property looks like is that. So, well,
Hey, Sharon, I have a question for you. So when looking on this sheet on C2, use unit 32 for a C2, which it's zoned right now, can have temporary buildings and/or storage. Is that storage indoor storage only? For
It has
C2?
very specific, in the ordinance that details the specifics of that use unit, it has some very strict guidelines around it. have my iPad, but often it's like a work trailer at a construction site. They have to be specifically approved, and for a very specific temporary time.
But it's not dealing anything with this,
No,
why they want to go to a C5, because this is a total different storage definition than what it is in C2.
correct. And the benefit of the outside storage is that they don't have to have a structure that is so large to contain these pieces.
All right. Okay. We have a motion and a second, and I'm going to call for the vote, if you guys can get it up on the screen.
It is 4-4, Mayor.
I'll vote yes,
Carries 5-4.
which is the only way I can vote.
That's correct.
All right, Sharon?
Was there an emergency clause to vote on, or we?
There is an emergency clause.
Make a motion, the emergency clause pass.
Second. We have a motion and a second on the emergency clause. Call for the vote.
Emergency clause carries 8-0.
All right, our second item is a final plat on South 48th Street, just north of Don Tyson. And if you'll notice on the plat itself in the packet, it only has 2 lots. And that's because this property in the past had been split previous times administratively on the staff level. And therefore, it was agreed that any further splits would actually have to be platted and come forth as a final plat. So that's why we were hearing this. The title reads, "An ordinance accepting the final plat, FP 2502, of Lane Estates to the city of Springdale, Arkansas, and declaring an emergency." And this was unanimous approval, 9-0.
Move the ordinance be adopted.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to adopt the ordinance. Any other questions or comments? Is there anyone in the audience that needs to speak to this one? All right, I'll call for the vote.
I make a motion, the emergency clause pass.
Second.
Well, the ordinance carries 8-0. Now we have a motion and a second emergency clause. That's fine. You're fine.
All right, let's call for the vote on the emergency clause.
Carries 8-0.
All right, thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Sharon. And I'm going to turn this one over to our city attorney, item 10.
Thank
The
you.
appeal.
This is, item 10 on the agenda is an appeal to Planning Commission's denial of a variance request, B 2509, for reduction of front setbacks on, I think, 8 different lots at 1901 West Shady Grove Road, Northern Hills Mobile Home Park. And I believe the applicant is here. I think they were requesting a variance for front setbacks to add, I believe, 8 more units.
Correct, yes, sir.
And they did timely file their appeal and have provided the necessary notifications for the appeal to be heard.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for having me. I'm Ken Weigel. I actually am permitting and utility coordinator for RHP Properties. Here tonight, just to kind of clarify a few things as we appealed this. Originally denied, but I don't know that it was understood 100% correctly. These 8 lots in our community at Northern Hills here on Shady Grove already exist. And I think it was at the understanding that we were attempting to incorporate new builds onto this. These lots will simply just be filled with more manufactured housing of smaller size. There were some things that we were trying to address as well, just for clarity. The reduction of the building to centerline road setback is what the variance was for. And this is currently 30 feet from centerline of road to a building. Based on the lots that we're looking at, the shortest distance being 17 feet on D18. still allows for these homes to be further off the street than what we have currently in the community, just to try to maintain for emergency vehicles. In addition to that, RHP has actually sent a letter to all of the tenants that are currently there, notifying them that street parking is no longer allowed. We currently have 12 existing visitor parking lots, 4 additional spaces on Street F, and we have an RV section that we're going to modify to bring in an additional 10 lots for visitor parking.
Okay, can you go back to that previous picture? The view, yeah, there you go.
Yep. So this is what was proposed. Some of these lots with the irregular setup that's in this community, we're going to maintain the current setup that's there now, but be able to shrink these homes. Being a non-conforming community, and having the option for like, we understand what that does for us, but we're trying to be good neighbors and stewards as well to keep off the street as far as possible. Some of these lots were actually filled with homes that were near 70 feet at one point in time when they were first developed. So the largest home we're looking at could be anywhere between 46 and 48 feet in length, 16 foot wide. And pulling this up, I know it's difficult to see, but there's a number of these homes currently that actually encroach what the setback is, and we don't want to do that. Our intent is to fill the empty spaces, provide affordable homes, and be able to maintain all the municipal requirements as well.
And you have the ability to limit any parking
That is correct.
on the
yes.
road?
Yeah, that letter has already been sent out to the tenants. I'm not sure if they've received it yet, but that is a rule and regulation that we are capable of doing
How's that enforced?
by our community management.
Okay.
So Chief Holt, I have a question for you. What is the stance from the fire department right now on the proposal that was originally put in and what changes they're talking about doing now?
Well, I don't think there's a difference for a couple of reasons. One is, as he pointed out, and I appreciate their efforts to try to be helpful, but it is non-conforming, so it doesn't fit with what the guidelines for mobile home parks are today with regards to setback spacing and things like that. And so even though they were existing structures, like for us, when we address non-conforming uses, we try to make them for the good and not for a greater challenge, especially for us. We lack sufficient water in the area. Navigation with emergency vehicles is difficult, even without on-street parking. And hopefully it'll get better. I like hearing that they're going to change their parking rules. But, having several incidents there, I know that we have trouble just getting, more than one fire truck in the area. And this particular kind of setup is, it gives me heartburn just to look at the picture. The opportunity for structure-to-structure ignition is significant. And so our stance is that we wouldn't support it just because of the already lack of side and rear setbacks.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And a question for Sharon. Do you remember what the vote was original with planning?
It was 9-0 against,
9 against?
yes.
Okay.
And just to reiterate, we do understand the need for accessibility for all emergency vehicles, right? It's something that's going to be a challenge no matter how you look at it, but what we're trying to accommodate here is filling empty spaces, providing that home for somebody that may need it, and also abiding by as much as possible to be able to fit within the municipal requirements. Having new homes there is better than seeing vacant lots. Just for blight and visibility purposes, no matter what. And again, that 25-foot roadway does not become impacted in any fashion with what we're proposing.
When you initially talked about setbacks, you were talking about from center of road, correct?
That is correct. The initial setback from center of road is 30 foot from center of road to building currently.
And what would be some of these distances? It looks like they're actually touching the edge of the road on some of the existing ones.
Some of the existing ones are, if that current setback was utilized as a new fashion, these homes would have to be reorientated on every lot. And that's, as a goal for RHP, as we move forward, new homes need to be brought into our communities in a multitude of ways, right? Whether it's abandonment, whether it's something that gets destroyed, we try to remove and replace with new and existing and nicer homes.
Hello, this is Matt Fontenot with Atwell, the civil engineer for the project. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Hey, thanks for having me virtually, guys. I just wanted to add a couple of things here. So these are all existing lots. They've had manufactured homes on them in the past, from the 90s, 2003, 2008. We're simply just trying to replace homes that were once existing. So we're just trying to pull building permits here. The existing homes that were there were much larger. Through this process, we've worked with the building department. They actually recommended we utilize a like-for-like replacement here. But we're actually going with much smaller units by 20 to 30 feet smaller compared to what was existing. So what we're proposing is going to be further off the roadway than if we were to pursue a like-for-like replacement. We have moved to completely prohibit street parking at the community in order to preserve the entire 25-foot roadway for emergency vehicle access. So that 25 foot meets the Springdale ordinance for manufactured housing communities roadway width. And then understood that the community is legal non-conforming, but we're not proposing any other variances besides the distance from the center line of the roadway to the building setback. So we're not diminishing side setbacks or rear setbacks for the proposed replacement units. Understood there are some dimensional irregularities and non-conforming standards at the community, but it is what it is, and we're just looking to replace homes that were once there. We're not looking to increase density. We're not looking to develop expansion sites, just looking to replace what was once existing. And by seeking this dimensional variance, we'd actually be installing a smaller footprint home than if we were to pursue the like-for-like replacement. If anybody has any other questions from an engineering perspective, I'd be happy to answer those.
Any other questions?
Doug, I do.
Okay.
And I apologize, Sarah, but I'm lost here on this. You think maybe we didn't understand it. Well, I don't understand it still. So I don't know if that's your fault, the engineer's fault, the city's fault, or whose fault. If you're wanting to go from what was larger mobile homes to a smaller mobile home, what is it that you're having to ask for a variance for? What is it you're asking us to do tonight? I'm kind of lost, so you're going to have to kind of spell it out for me if you wouldn't mind.
So it's my understanding when this community was first developed that the setback from center line of street, that ordinance was not in place at that point, which is why you see the homes as close to the edge of the road as they are currently.
So it's a variance on the setback from the center of the
It's a variance
street?
on the setback from the center line of street.
And you're needing that variance, why?
So that we can actually set the home without being on the street, but the variance is going to be breached regardless. So the entire street road width is 25 foot. So half of that would be 12. The closest home we're going to put to the street is at 17, which still gives you 5 foot off the edge of the road.
Okay, go ahead,
I
Ernest.
think hopefully I can clarify. This is a non-conforming use currently. They have removed 8 structures that were once there. Given the fact that they were removed, they cannot put them back the way they were before because the nonconformity. So on red page 35, I believe, lists the lot spaces and the setbacks that are asked for each one.
Yes.
For example, lot A29, they're asking to go a variance setback from 30 feet to 18 feet. Lot C9, 30 to 18 feet. Lot C15, 30 to 21 feet. And he's right, there's one that's lot D18, they're asking to go from a 30-foot setback down to a 14-foot setback. So that's why they're having to do it, because as you know, if you have a nonconformity and it goes 6 months, say if they remove a structure for more than 6 months, they can't put it back without complying with the ordinance.
Even though that's just on a particular lot, because this is a whole area that probably, this is the
Right.
nonconformities for the whole area, right?
Yeah,
Is it
I think that-
Nonconformity that changes for each lot?
I
If it
think
had
that
been-
just speaks to the timing on the ordinance itself and when the home was there last, because it's past that 6 month or.
Yeah, my
year.
question was, though, does each lot have a nonconformity or just the entire
Because-
complex?
Because the lot sizes are different, the ones that we're asking for aren't fitting into that conformity. I don't want to speak to the rest of the community because I can't speak to each lot.
I do, yeah, the whole thing is nonconforming, and the idea behind nonconforming uses is they'll eventually become conforming uses over time. So as these are removed, then what goes back in has to comply, if that makes sense. That's what they're running up against. Now, there's a chart up on the screen. For example, I'm looking at lot D18, it says 17 foot, but on the application, it says 30 to 14 feet. So I'm a little confused as to what the actual variance requested is.
I'd have to clarify that. The 17 feet is what we would be looking for currently. And I apologize, I did not get that paperwork in. I'm just here on behalf. So, but again, like I say, this is to accommodate more homes, but also to accommodate as much as possible the current setbacks. The variance would allow us to fit a home and provide housing for people that could use it.
Bottom line, if someone moves a trailer out, they can move one back in. The problem here is it's been more than 6 months on these particular lots.
That's my understanding, yes.
And I did take a tour because it's my responsibility, obviously, and most of the utilities have recently been upgraded as well. I mean, gas risers are there, brand new, ready for every lot that's specified. So it is in the plans that these lots can be filled again at some point.
But can they, now I'm confused. So you're saying that the structure that was there, the structure you want to put in is smaller than the structure that was there?
That is correct.
So if it's smaller, is it the way that this piece of property is angled, that it's still not going to be non-conforming?
Yes, the irregular layout is what our challenge is to be able to maintain the 30-foot from center line of road.
Is there a way to have and I'm just asking, is there a way to have a building on there that would conform without having to do this?
Given the lot sizes, it would be very difficult because you'd have to try to straighten it out in a triangular fashion, and it shrinks the size of the house to the point where it's very, very small.
Matt Fondo with Atwell again. We performed lot fit analysis on all 8 of these lots, and we do not believe it is feasible to utilize these lots for manufactured housing units without this variance. So if the variance is unable to be obtained, we believe these 8 lots would sit vacant. We looked at multiple different configurations, and we dropped the home sizes down to a 16 by 40 foot product and a 16 by 48 foot product. We believe those are the smallest unit size that would still sell in this market. And we looked at the configuration, the orientation that would be least disruptive to emergency vehicles. We're matching the overall configuration of units at this community. We're just looking to replace these 8 homes in a similar fashion that they exist on the other existing home sites.
So Ernest, just for options, and whether there's a motion or not, we could see either if someone wants to approve this, then they would make a motion to overturn the decision of the planning commission, correct? And if they don't want, if the council wants to go the other way, they could either make no motion, or would you prefer a motion upholding the planning commission's decision?
I knew Mr. Watson was going to look at me when he asked that question. I'm fine with whatever the council's pleasure is, as long as it's understandable to the applicant and to the people watching at home, and to me. I'm not hearing a motion. So if there's no motion, the decision to deny the variance made by the planning commission will be upheld.
All right, everybody understand that? Going once, going twice. I believe it dies for lack of a motion. So the planning commission's decision stands.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here and for all your work.
Yeah. Appreciate it. Yep, thank you.
All right, item 11. Finance Committee, Chairman Jeff Watson. Jeff?
So the Finance Committee had several items forwarded to council with recommendation, all of them with recommendation for approval. Looks like at least 7 or 8. The first one has to do with the Springdale Smart Schools connection. And I'll read this title to this resolution. A resolution expressing the willingness of the city of Springdale, Arkansas to utilize federal aid funds for the following project, Springdale Smart Schools Connection.
Good evening.
Go ahead, Ryan.
Ben wasn't able to make it tonight, so I'll be answering any questions you have. This first one is to allow us to ask for TAP funding for the Smart School Connections project.
I make a motion, the resolution pass.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other questions or comments? Anyone? Anyone in the room? All right, call for the vote.
Carries 8-0.
Item 11B is also a resolution to utilize federal funds. This was also forwarded to council with recommendation for approval. The title to this resolution is a resolution expressing the willingness of the city of Springdale, Arkansas to utilize federal aid funds for the following project, 40th Street Side Path Extension.
Move the resolution be adopted.
Second.
Motion and a second to adopt the resolution. Other questions or comments? Anyone in the room? All right, we'll call for the vote.
Carries 8-0.
The third resolution has to do with the relocation of utility. The title to this resolution is Resolution Authorizing the Execution of a Relocation Agreement with Black Hills Energy for Don Tyson Parkway Extension, project number 23BPS2.
Second.
I'm sorry. We had a motion and a second? had a sidebar there. It was about this item. But anyway, are there any other questions or comments? We have a motion and a second to approve. All right, call for the vote.
Carries 8-0.
Fourth item, again, has to do with the use of federal aid funds. This is for Gene George. The title to this resolution is a resolution expressing the willingness of the city of Springdale, Arkansas to utilize federal aid funds for the following project, 040848 Gene George South Phase 2.
Move resolution passed.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the resolutions. Other questions or comments? Anyone in the room? Okay, call for the vote.
Carries 8-0.
I apologize, but I'm lost here. I thought we just did Black Hills.
There's two of them.
Okay,
Yeah, there's two different ones.
all right,
Crazy.
okay. Well, not yet. This is 11E. This again has to do with the relocation of utility. The title to this resolution is a resolution authorizing the execution of a relocation agreement with Black Hills Energy for Gene George Boulevard South Extension.
Move resolution passed.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the resolution. Any questions, comments, concerns? Anyone in the room? All right, we'll call for the vote.
Carries 8-0.
And finally, the final resolution, again, the relocation agreement. The title to this resolution is a resolution authorizing the execution of a relocation agreement with Ozarks Electric Cooperative for Don Tyson Parkway Extension, project number 23BPS2.
Move resolution passed.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the resolution. Other comments or questions before we vote? Anyone? All right, call for the vote.
Carries 8-0.
Yeah, you did. Yeah. All right, item 12. I wouldn't read an ordinance authorizing the issuance and sale of water and sewer revenue bonds, and Heath's going to present this. Heath Ward.
Yes, and I have some helpers with me this evening in case we have questions. I'm sure we'll have some. As you know, we are wanting to have these bonds issued in order to finish the 48-inch water line on the west side of town to connect it with Beaver Water District. This will ensure the growth on the west side of town, plus provide fire protection and water redundancy for the entire community as we do grow, as well as sewer improvements that will also benefit the entire community and help our capacity through much of Springdale. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Shep Rustle, who is our bond attorney.
Shep, while you're coming, Ernest might go ahead and read the whole title.
This is an ordinance authorizing the issuance and sale of water and sewer revenue bonds to finance extensions, betterments, and improvements to the city's water and sewer system, providing for the payment of the principal of and interest on the bonds, prescribing other matters relating thereto, and declaring an emergency.
Mayor and council, this ordinance authorizes the issuance of bonds that were preliminarily approved by the council for the projects that Heath mentioned in January. The underwriters, Cruz and Stevens, they sold the bonds or marketed the bonds today, subject to the passage of this ordinance. You had given preliminary approval for $60 million. This is $58,720,000. The bonds go out to 2046 and have a net interest cost of 4.1%. I want to be clear, there's no obligation on the city to pay these bonds except from the water and sewer system revenues. So it's non-recourse to the general fund or any other assets of the city except the water and sewer system is obligated to pay the bondholders. So that's a summary of the ordinance. I'll be glad to answer any legal questions you might have.
I'll make a motion that the ordinance pass.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the ordinance. Any other questions for Shep or Heath or anyone? Or from anyone? Anyone in the room? All right, call for the vote.
Carries 8-0. Does have an emergency clause.
Move the emergency clause be adopted.
Second.
Okay, call for the vote on the emergency clause.
Carries 8-0. Thank y'all.
Thank you, guys. All right, move on now to item 13, and our city attorney will do that. Ernest?
Thank you. This is an ordinance vacating and abandoning a portion of a utility easement pursuant to Arkansas Code annotated 14-301-301 et sec, declaring emergency and for other purposes. This is on property, the parcel number is listed. It's property, I believe it's 1404, ironically enough, Shady Grove Road. There's a map in the packet as well that shows the location of the portion of the easement to be vacated.
Right.
And all utilities have consented.
I make a
Move the-
motion that the ordinance pass.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the ordinance. Any other questions? All right, anyone in the room? All right, call for the vote.
Carries 8-0.
Move the emergency clause be adopted.
Okay, thank you. Call for the vote on the emergency clause.
Carries 8-0. Item 14 is a resolution setting a hearing date on a petition to vacate a portion of Success Avenue. This would set the public hearing, and the ordinance will be brought to the April 8th, 2025 City Council meeting, and the city clerk would publish notice as required by the statute. You might remember when we redid East Maple, we had vacated a portion of Success between Park and Water Street, and this would vacate the remainder of that old street, and all the adjacent property owners have consented to this.
Move the resolution be adopted.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second to approve the resolution. Any other questions, concerns, comments? Anyone in the audience? All right, we'll call for the vote.
Carries 8-0. And last but not least is an ordinance authorizing the city clerk to file a cleanup lien for the removal of overgrown brush and debris on property located within the city of Springdale, Arkansas, and declaring an emergency. And this is on property located at 2010 Bluebird Drive.
Move ordinance pass.
Got a motion and a second to approve the ordinance. Anyone need to speak to this property? All right, call for the vote.
Carries 8-0.
Move the emergency clause be adopted.
All right, call for the vote on the emergency clause.
Randall.
Randall.
Carries 8-0.
All right, thank you. Ernest, item 16, comments from council? 17, oh, go ahead, go ahead.
I was going to take Shep up on his offer to answer any legal questions. I had a few that I needed to get answered, but did it have to be about the bond issue, or could it be any? No, Mayor, do we know, do we have a completion date scheduled for the M Avenue?
There's, officially, it's before school starts, but can we say June? That's what they're saying. End of June.
June. Do you know whether or not we're going to have any kind of opening? Ribbon cutting opening or?
We should. We'll contact the chamber. They would probably want to help with that.
Getting pretty close to the end of June, so it'd kind of be nice to know when we might do that.
Yeah, we can at least start the discussions about what we want to do with the chamber, and they can organize it, and we may have to adjust the date, depending on how the completion goes, but we can get close. Yeah, thanks, Jeff. City Attorney, got anything?
I have something.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mike, go ahead.
The mayor, I just wanted to commend James and Public Works, and the city. Huntsville looks wonderful. I've had several comments from people who drive it quite a bit, and now that it's striped, it looks really good.
I haven't seen the stripes yet. Three of us got back from DC about 3 this afternoon, so I'm going to go drive it. Yeah, but it was already smooth, so, yeah, did a great job.
I'm just glad to see the bond council's stretch electric car that we have out for him.
Knew it was coming.
Yeah.
I didn't know Tesla made stretch limos, but they do.
All right. I don't have anything. No,
So
have to
moved.
come back. Yeah, we're out. Thank y'all. We're adjourned.